Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is the third time I'm trying to film this video, so we'll see what happens. I've had mic issues a lot today. Today is going to be a mini review and kind of a talk through of The Last Ronin, which is a graphic novel about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If you are not familiar with this franchise, I would be shocked because I feel like it's such a cultural thing, especially if you grew up in the 80s and 90s like me. I was born in 1986 and the first live action film came out in 1990. It was a bit dark, so I am more familiar with the second movie, which came out in 1991, and that was the one that was played most in my house, mainly because it had been toned down quite a bit to be more acceptable to parents. But I think overall the first movie is better film wise. The second one is more nostalgic for me, but both I like. So that's kind of where I am coming from. I grew up in, like I said, 80s, 90s, and we grew up playing the game. We watched the TV show. This was very much like a part of my life. And I feel like every kid who grew up in that time knew Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You want to be in it? There he is. So like I said, I feel like this was very much like a cultural thing in that time. We all loved Ninja Turtles, and it was such a huge thing that in the second movie, like you had very famous rappers. Vanilla Ice at the time was famous, and it was like such a thing that everybody kind of knew about Ninja Turtles, and everybody's kid was Ninja Turtles for Halloween. So this was very much something I grew up with, and I loved it. I loved all the different films and the TV show and the game, even though I maintain to this day that it was really way too hard. And I'm not good at video games, so that's probably why. But I was really excited when I heard that this graphic novel was coming out and that it was going to be kind of like a final send off for these characters that I really like. And I will let you know, I did not keep up on the comics. I don't normally read comics, it's not my genre, but I was interested, so I figured, hey, I'm going to get it and see how they're, kind of treating these characters in a final goodbye, and maybe not final, but this is kind of how it was being marketed. And I really liked it. I think it was done pretty well. I will say, for me, there's certain iconic characters that just have never gotten enough love, like Bebop and Rocksteady. And I'm more familiar with the kind of Shredder and Krang, duo that was more in the show. Definitely like more like this kind of stuff is going to be more, Dimension X. Mm-hmm. This is going to be more the Ninja Turtles that I know. So I have a very strong nostalgia for these characters, but also I don't really know all of the newer storylines, the newer characters, newer plot points. So I was kind of curious how they were going to do this. Would it be very, a ton of nostalgia, or would it be a lot of new storylines, new plot lines, new characters? And I think they did a really good job. There were certain characters, obviously, that I didn't know, that I had never been introduced to, but majority are going to be people that April O'Neil, Casey Jones, etc. So now you kind of know my background with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle franchise. I will just say I really like this. This is a fun read. Fun. Death isn't fun, but a good send off, a good storyline. I felt like it really did justice to all the characters, and I think it's definitely worth reading. I would recommend. I say 4 out of 5 stars. I am taking a couple points off, a star off for a few things, and it may be nitpicky, but this is how I feel. So in my opinion, this is definitely worth reading. If you grew up with these characters, if this, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is something you totally loved, I would definitely check it out. And I think it's well written. I can't really speak to the artwork because I have no concept of good comic book art, but to me it looked great. Also, I will just go over a very basic plot, that this is about, obviously, the last Ninja Turtle. The others are dead. This is not a spoiler. This is basically on the back cover, and the final revenge quest to avenge all of the other family members and kind of put an end to the long war that's been going on between the two clans. So it would be Oroku Saki as Shredder, I believe, right? Orokosaki, and then Hamato Yoshi, who is Splinter. And so the two clans have always had this war kind of going on from the very beginning. It's kind of explained differently in the TV show, that I'm not sure if it's been explained differently in the comics, but in this, it's the two different clans kind of going up against each other for final, battle. And the last Ronin, as the last surviving member of that clan, he is going to take revenge and destroy the villain. So this is set in like futuristic New York. There's a lot of like flying cars, uh, robots, drones, that kind of thing. Like it's very interesting, I think, because it reminds me a lot of, hang on, it actually reminds me a lot more of like this kind of a futuristic style where it's like flying cars, a lot of, kind of over the top stuff, but it works and it's fun. And I think that overall, it's definitely worth reading. So I will definitely recommend this and say you should check it out. I was pleasantly surprised at how quick it was to read. Obviously, it's not long, it's a graphic novel, but also just the plot pacing was very well done. And although I have some gripes with some deaths and some characters, I will keep that for spoilers and start talking about that now. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, I feel like you just can't really, like, all about this when you're first starting out is that one turtle has survived and, kind of it's a revenge mission. But I don't want to give anything else away, so if you don't want to hear any spoilers, turn off now. Okay, so let's talk about who is the last Ronin. And this is, this very early on. So I thought for sure they were going to pace this out where it was a slow reveal, build up to the end, kind of like they're eliminating characters and you're going to find out who it is at the very end. No, basically right out of the gate that this is Michelangelo. The last Ronin is Michelangelo. And I get why they picked Michelangelo because, he's the youngest, he's the most immature. So I think that they felt that he could go on this character journey, this character growth that would be good. And I kind of buy into it, but not fully, because I feel that Raphael also could have done the same thing. He was also very immature. He just had more like a sarcastic edginess to him, which I prefer. Raphael is my favorite character. And then Donatello, then Michelangelo, then Leonardo. I don't know, is Leonardo anybody's favorite? Let me know in the comments. I don't know, I was kind of bummed that it was Michelangelo, and I'm kind of bummed that they told me right out of the gate because I wanted to have the suspense. And it's so well done in the comic book where even though Michelangelo is with the other, like he has such bad survivor's guilt that he imagines all the other turtles with him, but they all have black masks on, and obviously the only way to differentiate between them is the color of their masks. And so they could have very easily had the flashbacks telling of the deaths and had it kind of go one by one so you didn't know. But they didn't. So it was a bummer to me. I felt like it really took the whole suspense out of it. And I also will just say that not all deaths are created equal. Some of these are going to have much more of an emotional impact. And I think the characters of Casey Jones and Leonardo, their deaths were kind of like meh. Also, I mean, it was like they died, and spoiler, in an explosion. And Raphael and Splinter and Donatello had kind of like a more, I've definitely felt that more. So it all just kind of depends on your own feelings for these characters. I also have no idea how April O'Neil is still alive, because obviously turtles like have a long life, but the villain in this is Shredder's grandson. So giving you an idea of how long of a period of time we're working with. And she doesn't look that old. And also the other character that's another main character we get introduced to is April O'Neil's daughter with Casey Jones, who is also named Casey. So their survivors are going to be April O'Neil and her daughter and Michelangelo. And then it's going to be their final quest for vengeance, and they're, kind of got the resistance going, and they're going to take down this bad guy who, I don't even remember his name. He's not a super memorable villain. I didn't feel like he was really that cool. And kind of being Shredder's grandson, it definitely had like a Kylo Ren vibe to it, where I was like, you're not scary. Like, you'll never be as good as Shredder. You'll never be as good as Vader. And that's kind of a bummer too, because you want to really hate the villain. And I was like, oh, yeah. I'm nitpicking. This is a really good graphic novel. It's really good, but I definitely felt that there was things that would have made it better, and I just didn't think certain things played out as well. The character of Casey, uh, she also, surprise, has powers. She heals very quickly. She's faster than normal human, and she's stronger than normal human. Why? Why does she have powers? Because April kind of explains it to her that, like, well, we were exposed to the mutagen so much that you must have somehow had it. Like, it would have been in our bloodstream, so it was somehow passed down to you, which makes no sense, because the original explanation for how the mutagen works is that, and I get that this is not, they probably changed this later because it doesn't necessarily make sense, but if you came in contact with it, you then took on the characteristics of whatever you had been around last. So that's why Splinter turns into a rat, because he had been with the rats last, and the turtles turn into human forms because they had been around him last. So I get that it's a very simplistic explanation, but also if you don't change that for the audience, how are we supposed to know, like, why did April and Casey Jones, the dad, never take on any characteristics of the turtles or of Splinter or anyone else? They were around this all the time, but supposedly it was enough to infect their daughter with like superpowers. I don't know. I wasn't believing it as much, and I was kind of bummed too that these villains that we had weren't more what I remember, which I'm sure they've dealt with long ago in the comics. Like, I'm sure Krang and Dimension X and all of that, Plotline and Bebop and Rocksteady and Shredder have all been dealt with. So, you have to deal with the villains you have available that you haven't killed off. But I just didn't, his death was kind of and I just didn't care. It was more the quest, the vengeance, and the ultimate payoff of the last, obviously Michelangelo, the last Ninja Turtle, being able to avenge his family. And I think it was really good. I think it was definitely what these characters deserve for a send off. I think it was really well done. And I think that the care that they're taking to really respect the characters shows. And it's something we don't get a lot with like modern takes on old characters and old franchises. A lot of the times they are changed to the point of not being recognizable anymore. And no, I'm not calling anybody out specifically. Like, back off me about Rings of Power. It's not good, okay? I'm If you like it, you like it. I don't like it. I can't even get through the second episode. I just find it boring. But that's off topic. So, my final thoughts, definitely check this out. I think it's definitely worth reading, whether you like graphic novels or not. I think if you're a fan of Ninja Turtles, definitely check it out. It's not for kids, I would say. It's definitely the grittier, more dark version that you kind of have in that first movie, and I prefer it. Definitely prefer it. I think the other stuff is fun, like very nostalgic to me, but I think this is a more interesting take on these characters, and I appreciate the like darker tone. So I want to say thank you as always for watching, and thank you anyone of my new subscribers. I really appreciate it. I know I haven't been on here in forever, and I'm making videos again, but I've had a lot of support and a lot of people coming over from my Bookstagram. So if you want to find me on there, like, I communicate more on Bookstagram, and obviously I'm posting regularly. So find me on Instagram. I'll put the link down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you again soon.